Captain Do-Yim Park stood motionless on the bridge of the scout ship Vigilant. His eyes were fixed on the view screen as bright flashes of light erupted across the surface of Proxima Centauri V. The human colony, home to over 3 million settlers, was being systematically destroyed before his eyes. "Magnify Sector 4, he ordered, his voice unnaturally calm despite the horror unfolding. The image shifted, showing massive Imperial warships hovering above the colony's main settlement. Their distinctive crescent shapes were unmistakable. The vanguard fleet of the Galactic Empire. Energy weapons lanced down from the vessels, turning buildings to ash and farmland to glass. Lieutenant Ju Kim worked frantically at her communication station, her fingers dancing across the control surface. "Captain, I'm detecting no distress signals from the colony." They didn't even have time to call for help. Park's jaw tightened. "How many colony ships have managed to launch?" "None, sir," Kim replied, her voice breaking. The spaceport was among the first targets. They never had a chance. The Vigilant had been on a routine patrol at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system when their sensors detected the Imperial fleet's arrival. Thanks to Earth's experimental cloaking technology, they remained undetected, but that same technology prevented them from intervening without revealing their presence, a suicide mission against such overwhelming firepower. "Record everything," Park ordered. "Every second, every ship identification, every weapon signature." The bridge crew worked in stunned silence as the massacre continued. The Imperial ships moved with methodical precision, ensuring nothing was left standing. "Sir," First Officer Min Ji-yoon reported, "scans indicate they're using thermal bombardment patterns. They're not just destroying infrastructure. They're making the planet uninhabitable." Park's hands gripped the command chair's armrests. Humanity had spent decades establishing peaceful contact with the Galactic Empire. Earth had sent diplomats, scientists, and cultural ambassadors. The Empire had responded with polite distance, and negotiations for formal relations had been proceeding slowly but steadily. There had been no warning, no declaration of war, no demands. "Lieutenant Kim," Park said finally, "prepare an emergency quantum burst transmission to Earth. Priority Alpha 1. Include all sensor data and visual recordings." "Yes, sir," Kim replied. She worked for several minutes, compiling the data. "Transmission ready." Park nodded. "Send it." "Signal away, sir," she confirmed, her face ashen with shock. "Earth will know within the hour." The bridge fell silent again as they watched the final stages of the destruction. The Imperial warships were thorough, using specialized weapons to irradiate the soil and poison water sources. "They're not just killing our people," whispered Science Officer Chono Kwan. "They're making sure we can never return." After 2 hours, the Imperial fleet formed up and vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind a dead world where a thriving colony had stood that morning. "Set course for Earth," Park ordered. "Maximum speed." The Vigilant broke orbit, its engines straining as it accelerated away from the graveyard world. During the 3-week journey back to Earth, the crew functioned like automatons. They ate, slept, and performed their duties, but the life had gone out of them. Each carried the weight of what they had witnessed and what they had been unable to prevent. Park spent much of the journey in his quarters, reviewing the recordings. He studied the Imperial ships, their attack patterns, their weaponry. He was searching for anything that might explain why the Empire had turned on humanity without warning. He found nothing. On Earth, the quantum burst transmission arrived at the Lunar Defense Station before being relayed to the planetary surface. The message and its attached data spread through military and government channels like wildfire. Within 6 hours, the United Earth government convened an emergency session. The recordings from the Vigilant played on screens throughout the chamber, showing the systematic annihilation of humanity's first and only extrasolar colony. Defense Minister Sung-Moon Lee stood before the assembled leaders, his face grave. 3,247,000 lives. Gone. The chamber was silent. For the past 20 years, He continued, "We have operated under the assumption that peaceful coexistence with the Galactic Empire was possible. We followed all their diplomatic protocols. We respected their boundaries. We shared our art, our music, our literature. We offered friendship." He gestured to the frozen image on the main screen, an Imperial warship firing upon a residential district. "This is their answer." President Elena Calvo of the United Earth Government rose from her seat. "What are our options, Minister Lee?" "Limited," Lee replied honestly. "The Empire possesses vastly superior technology and controls thousands of worlds. Their military might exceeds our own by orders of magnitude. So we surrender?" asked the representative from the African Union. "No," Lee said firmly. "We activate the Prometheus Protocol." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Prometheus Protocol was a last resort contingency plan developed in secret by Earth's leading scientists and military strategists. It was designed for one scenario only: an extinction-level threat from a technologically superior alien civilization. "The protocol has 3 phases," Lee explained. "First, immediate dispersal of our remaining population to hidden bunkers and undersea habitats. Second, activation of all prototype weapons systems and defensive technologies previously deemed too dangerous for deployment. Third," he paused. "Third is what we've called the Hellforge Initiative." President Calvo's expression darkened. "You're proposing we authorize all 3 phases?" "Yes, Madam President. The Empire has shown us their intentions clearly. This was not a misunderstanding or an isolated incident. The level of planning required for such an attack indicates this was approved at the highest levels of their government." The chamber erupted in debate. Some argued for attempting further diplomatic contact. Others insisted on immediate retaliation. A few suggested surrender might save what remained of humanity. After hours of discussion, the vote was called. The result was not unanimous, but the majority was clear. The Prometheus Protocol would be activated. The world leaders moved to a secure facility beneath Seoul, one of several command bunkers designed to survive orbital bombardment. There, Minister Lee addressed them again. "The Proxima colony was just the beginning," he said. "Our long-range sensors have detected Imperial fleet movements that suggest Earth is their next target. We have perhaps 6 months before they arrive." He activated a holographic display showing Earth and the defenses being prepared. "We will be ready," he promised, "and we will make them regret their choice." In a quiet moment after the briefing, President Calvo approached Minister Lee. "Do you truly believe we can survive this, Sung-moon?" Lee looked at her with steel in his eyes. "They think us weak, primitive, a minor species they can exterminate without consequence. That is their mistake." He gazed at the tactical display, where the estimated position of the approaching Imperial fleet was marked. "We extended peace. They responded with genocide. Now they will learn what humanity is truly capable of when fighting for survival." On the capital world of the Galactic Empire, Supreme Commander Rayleigh stood before the High Council. The massive chamber held representatives from 27 species that ruled the stars. Each sat on platforms adjusted to their unique biology, some needing high gravity, others low, some breathing methane, others oxygen. "The human colony has been eliminated," Rayleigh announced. His 6-fingered hands gestured to the holographic display, showing the smoldering remains of Proxima Centauri. Their primitive defenses were no match for even our lightest warships. High Counselor Taven, the eldest of the ruling Viridian species, leaned forward on his gravity cushion. "And what of their homeworld?" "Earth remains untouched, as you ordered," Rayleigh replied. "Our analysis suggests they have no knowledge of what has occurred. Their communication technology is limited to light-speed transmissions. It will be years before any natural signal reaches them." This was the Empire's first mistake. Several counselors chittered with sounds of approval. Only Counselor Ilara of the Navenian species seemed troubled. "The humans sent us poetry," she said quietly, "and music. They'd wished to learn about us." "They were expanding too quickly," countered Counselor Drax. Their adaptive capabilities are concerning. Better to eliminate them now than face them in a century when they might actually pose a threat. The Council voted to proceed with the planned extinction of humanity. The war plan was simple: destroy their colonies one by one, then their homeworld. Humanity would be a footnote in imperial records, one of dozens of species deemed too unpredictable to be allowed into the galactic community. This was their second mistake. Deep within Earth's asteroid belt, hidden inside a hollowed-out planetoid designated as Mining Outpost Delta, Admiral Minje Kang walked through a massive construction bay. Above him towered the hull of the warship Retribution, the first of Earth's new Defender-class vessels. Unlike the civilian ships used to establish the Proxima colony, these vessels were built for one purpose: war. Their hulls contained layers of metamaterials that absorbed or deflected energy weapons. Their propulsion systems used artificial quantum singularities, technology the Empire believed was centuries beyond human capability. Most importantly, they carried weapons the Empire had never encountered: antimatter torpedoes capable of splitting planets and quantum displacement drives that could move ships instantly across vast distances without using the predictable hyperspace lanes the Empire controlled. "Admiral, the fleet reports ready for inspection," said Captain Hanabaugh, falling into step beside him. Kang nodded. "How many ships do we have operational?" 200 Defender-class destroyers, 50 Vengeance-class carriers, and the flagship Retribution, she replied, plus 5,000 fighter craft and 2,000 orbital defense platforms, all with full weapons complement and crews at battle readiness. Kang's face remained impassive, but satisfaction glinted in his eyes. For 30 years, Earth had presented a deliberately primitive face to the galaxy while secretly preparing for this possibility. The Vigilance quantum transmission had not been the surprise military leaders had feared, merely the confirmation of what they had expected all along. In the largest assembly bay, 500 ship commanders had gathered. They stood in perfect formation, their black uniforms bearing the new insignia of the Human Defense Force, a silver Earth with a shield. Admiral Kang took his place on the raised platform. At 63 years old, he was a veteran of Earth's last global conflict. His hair had turned white, but his back remained straight, and his voice powerful. "Commanders," he began, "3 weeks ago, the Galactic Empire destroyed our colony at Proxima Centauri. 3 million civilian lives were extinguished without warning or provocation." The room remained silent, but Kang could feel the controlled rage emanating from every officer. "The Empire thinks us primitive," he continued. "They believe us isolated, unaware, and defenseless. This misconception will be their downfall." He activated a holographic display showing the known territory of the Empire, thousands of star systems spanning 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. "For decades, we have hidden our true capabilities. Our exploration vessels have mapped their territory. Our intelligence services have infiltrated their communication networks. We know their strengths, their weaknesses, and most importantly, their arrogance." Kang zoomed the display to show the Empire's fleet deployments. "They believe they have months before we even learn of the attack. They believe their next assault on Mars will crush our spirit. They are wrong." On Earth, the diplomatic corps sent one final message to the Empire. It bypassed their public channels and appeared simultaneously on every Imperial government system, military network, and public broadcast. "To the ruling council of the Galactic Empire, we are aware of your unprovoked attack on our Proxima Centauri colony. Your actions constitute genocide under any civilized definition. Despite this, we offer one chance for peace. Cease all hostilities immediately, withdraw your military forces from human space, and provide reparations for lives lost. Failure to comply within 1 standard solar day will result in consequences beyond your comprehension. This is not a negotiation. This is humanity's final warning." The message was signed simply, United Earth Government. In the Imperial capital, the message caused chaos. How had primitives penetrated their most secure networks? How did they even know what had happened at Proxima? How could they transmit a message instantaneously across hundreds of light years? The High Council convened an emergency session. After hours of heated debate, they reached a decision that would seal the Empire's fate. These humans are more advanced than we anticipated, Supreme Commander Relic admitted, but they remain vastly outmatched. Their threats are empty. Their response was to accelerate the timetable. Within hours, an Imperial battle group jumped to the Sol system and launched a devastating attack on the Mars colony. Orbital bombardment destroyed the main settlement domes. 30,000 human colonists died in minutes. The Imperial fleet commander transmitted throughout the system. This is the power of the Empire. Surrender now or watch as we destroy your worlds one by one until only Earth remains. Then you too will burn. They expected fear. They expected desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, sensors detected hundreds of objects suddenly appearing behind and around their fleet. Objects that hadn't been there moments before. Objects their systems identified as warships of unknown design and immense power. The voice of Admiral Kang came through on all Imperial frequencies. You have made your choice. Now witness ours. In orbit around Mars, the battle that followed lasted less than 5 minutes. The Imperial military hub in the Rigel system bustled with activity. Massive space stations orbited the gas giant Rigel IV, each one housing thousands of troops and hundreds of warships. This was the heart of the Empire's 7th Fleet, the same fleet responsible for destroying humanity's colonies. Fleet Admiral Vex stood on the command deck of the central station, watching as ships moved in precise formations. The Imperial military prided itself on discipline and order. Every vessel knew its place. Every officer knew their duty. Status report on the human situation, Vex demanded of his aide. The younger officer checked his datapad. The Mars operation was successful, sir. All human structures destroyed. We estimate 30,000 casualties. No meaningful resistance encountered. Vex nodded with satisfaction. And the preparations for the Earth assault? On schedule, Admiral. The main battle fleet will be ready to depart in 14 standard days. Excellent. The humans will. The alarm klaxons cut him off mid-sentence. Red emergency lights bathed the command center. Report, Vex shouted. The tactical officer stared at his console in disbelief. Unidentified vessels, sir. They're inside our defensive perimeter. Impossible. Vex snapped. Nothing can penetrate our sensor net without detection. The main view screen showed the impossible. Human warships, hundreds of them, had appeared simultaneously throughout the Rigel system. They hadn't approached from outside. They had simply materialized, bypassing the elaborate defense network the Empire had spent decades perfecting. How did they find us? Whispered the tactical officer. How did they get here so quickly? On the bridge of the human flagship Retribution, Admiral Kang studied the tactical display. His plan was working perfectly. The quantum displacement technology allowed his ships to bypass traditional space travel entirely, appearing exactly where they needed to be. All ships report successful insertion, Captain Hanaba informed him. Commander Ryu's battle group is engaging the command stations. Captain Choi's ships are targeting enemy propulsion systems as ordered. Kang nodded. Begin Phase 2. Throughout the Rigel system, the human attack unfolded with ruthless efficiency. Unlike the Empire's indiscriminate bombardment of civilian targets, the human strikes were surgical and precise. Commander Taehyun Ryu led 30 destroyers against the command stations. His ships targeted communication arrays, weapon emplacements, and shield generators. They didn't fire on habitation sections or life support systems. Focus fire on military target Alpha, Ryu ordered his fleet. Disable, don't destroy. The Imperial Defense Forces scrambled to respond, but they were trained for conventional warfare, enemies that used hyperspace lanes and followed predictable attack patterns. The humans seemed to operate by different rules entirely. When Imperial warships managed to coordinate their fire on a human vessel, they discovered their energy weapons had minimal effect. The strange, dark material of the human hulls seemed to absorb or redirect the energy. In another section of the system, Captain Jian Choi led a strike against the Imperial shipyards. Her vessels deployed specialized weapons, quantum disruptors that interfered with the Imperial ship's propulsion systems without destroying them completely. "Target locked," announced her weapons officer. "Disruptors ready." "Fire," Choi ordered calmly. The weapon released a pulse of energy that spread outward in an expanding sphere. Imperial ships caught in the field suddenly lost power to their engines. They drifted helplessly, unable to maneuver or escape. "No life signs lost," reported her tactical officer. "Enemy vessels disabled as planned." Choi nodded in satisfaction. "Move to the next target group." On the Imperial command station, chaos reigned. Admiral Vex watched in horror as his fleet was systematically disabled. Most disturbing was the precision of the attack. The humans were clearly capable of inflicting much greater destruction, but were deliberately limiting casualties. "Get me a channel to their command ship," he shouted. His communications officer worked frantically. "Channel open, sir." Vex straightened his uniform. "This is Fleet Admiral Vex of the Imperial 7th Fleet. You are committing an act of war against the Galactic Empire. Surrender your vessels immediately or face annihilation." The view screen changed to show Admiral Kang. The human's expression was cold and resolute. "This is Admiral Minja Kang of the Human Defense Force. Your fleet has already committed multiple acts of war against humanity. The annihilation of Proxima Centauri, the massacre on Mars. We are merely responding in kind. You cannot hope to defeat the Empire," Vex insisted. "We control thousands of worlds. Our forces are endless." "Yet here we are," Kang replied evenly. "Inside your most secure military installation. Your ships disabled. Your defenses bypassed." For the first time in his long career, Vex felt a sensation he couldn't immediately identify. After a moment, he recognized it. Fear. "What do you want?" he asked. "Justice," Kang answered. "But we'll settle for teaching you a lesson. Your 7th Fleet destroyed our colonies. We are here to ensure you cannot do so again." As they spoke, human ships completed their mission objectives. The Imperial shipyards were disabled, the weapons depots secured, the command stations isolated. "We could have killed everyone in this system," Kang continued, "just as you killed our people. But that is not our way. Your troops will be evacuated before we destroy your military infrastructure. We are not murderers of innocents." The implication was clear. "Unlike you. You have 1 hour to evacuate all personnel from military installations," Kang concluded. "After that, we will destroy every weapon, every shipyard, and every piece of military technology in this system." 6 hours later, the Rigel military hub was no more. The space stations had been precisely destroyed once evacuated. The shipyards were in ruins. The Imperial 7th Fleet, pride of the Empire, drifted powerless. Admiral Kang opened a final communication channel to the evacuation vessels carrying the Imperial personnel. "We didn't want this fight," he broadcast. "Remember that when you report to your masters." As suddenly as they had appeared, the human ships vanished, leaving destruction and stunned silence in their wake. News of the defeat spread quickly through the Empire despite the Council's efforts to suppress it. The destruction of the Rigel military hub, accomplished without a single Imperial casualty, sent shockwaves through the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, species long subjugated by Imperial rule began to see humanity in a new light. Not as savages to be feared, but as potential liberators. Secret communications reach Earth through carefully hidden channels. "We have suffered under Imperial rule for generations," read one message from the Ardani, a species known for their scientific achievements. "If you fight for freedom, we stand with you." Similar messages came from the Tellarites, the Vorn Collective, and a dozen other species. On Earth, the Defense Council met to consider these unexpected allies. Can they be trusted? Asked Minister Li. Admiral Kang considered the question carefully. They take a significant risk by contacting us. The Empire executes those who commit treason. Then we should welcome their support, President Calvo decided. This war may have begun with humanity standing alone, but perhaps it will end with many people standing together. The Imperial High Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives of 27 species shouted over one another as reports of the Rigel disaster played on screens throughout the room. "How is this possible?" demanded Councillor Drax, his scaled skin flushing dark purple with rage. These humans were primitives. They had barely achieved interstellar flight. High Councillor Taven struck his staff against the floor, calling for order. The intelligence was clearly flawed. These humans have technology far beyond our estimates. Councillor Ilara of the Navenians rose from her seat. Her forearms were held in a traditional posture of distress. "I move that we immediately open peace negotiations with the Earth government. They have demonstrated both their capability and their restraint. They evacuated our personnel before destroying the military installations." Her words sparked fresh argument. Several councillors joined Ilara's call for peace. Others demanded immediate, overwhelming retaliation. The division wasn't random. Species that had been absorbed into the Empire through diplomacy supported peace. Those that had joined through conquest or threat backed continued war. "Silence," roared Supreme Commander Relic. When the chamber quieted, he continued, "The humans have revealed themselves as a grave threat to Imperial security. Their technology allows them to bypass our defenses completely. They could appear in this very chamber if they wished." A murmur of fear rippled through the council. "Our only option is to strike decisively before they can mobilize further," Relic concluded. "I have authorized the deployment of our biological weapons against their homeworld." Ilara gasped. "The Red Death? You would use that against an entire planet? The Accords of Dinar expressly forbid. The security of the Empire overrides all other considerations." Relic cut her off. "The weapons are already deployed." Across 5 systems, Navenian representatives simultaneously rose from their council seats and formally declared their withdrawal from the Empire. Within hours, the Ardani, the Tellarites, and 3 other species followed suit. Civil war erupted as Imperial loyalists moved to prevent the seceding species from leaving. Ships fired on ships. Orbital platforms turned their weapons on planetary surfaces. The carefully maintained order of the Empire fractured along long-buried fault lines. Meanwhile, a fleet of specialized Imperial vessels entered the Sol system, releasing biological weapons into Earth's atmosphere. The Red Death, engineered to target human DNA specifically, spread rapidly through population centers. But humanity had prepared for this too. Within minutes of detecting the Imperial ships, emergency protocols activated worldwide. Cities were sealed, filtration systems engaged, medical countermeasures deployed. In a secure underground facility, Dr. Suminyu worked frantically with her team to analyze the pathogen. It attacks the respiratory system first, then spreads to the bloodstream. She explained to the emergency response team, "Our broad-spectrum antiviral nanites are slowing it, but not stopping it completely." Despite humanity's preparations, the death toll mounted. 20 million in the first day, 30 million more in the second. Cities became quarantine zones. Hospital systems were overwhelmed. On the bridge of the Retribution, Admiral Kang received the casualty reports in silence. His homeworld, the planet he had sworn to protect, was suffering. The Empire had escalated beyond conventional warfare to biological genocide. "Admiral," Captain Ba said quietly, "we've completed analysis of the attack pattern. They targeted our most populated areas specifically. This was a deliberate attempt to maximize civilian casualties." Something cold and terrible settled in Kang's eyes. He had hoped to win this war without becoming the monster the Empire believed humanity to be. That hope died with the millions on Earth. "Implement Operation Hellfire," he ordered. Throughout human space, Battle groups that had been holding defensive positions suddenly shifted to attack posture. This would no longer be a limited war of strategic targets and minimal casualties. Commander Tahian Ryu's fleet appeared in the Centauri Epsilon system, home to the Empire's largest shipyards. They struck without warning or mercy, destroying every military vessel, installation, and weapons platform. Captain Julian Choi led the assault on the Proxima Draconis naval base. Her ships systematically eliminated the defensive grid, then the command centers, then the docked warships. Within 72 hours, human forces had attacked 37 Imperial military targets across 22 star systems. No warnings were given, no evacuations allowed. The death toll among Imperial military personnel reached into the hundreds of thousands. The message was clear: Earth could strike anywhere, anytime, without warning, just as the Empire had done to them. As the military campaign expanded, a different kind of battle was being fought in research labs across Earth. Dr. Hyjin Park led a team of quantum physicists working on the most fearsome weapon ever conceived by human minds. In a secure briefing room 50 meters below the Pacific Ocean, she presented their creation to the United Earth Council. "We call it Prometheus Fire," Dr. Park explained, her voice steady despite the weight of what she was describing. "It exploits the quantum entanglement between particles within a star's core. Once deployed, it creates a cascading reaction that destabilizes stellar fusion." President Calvo leaned forward. "In simple terms, Doctor, it can cause a star to go supernova on command," Park replied. "The resulting explosion would destroy everything in the system." Silence fell over the room as the implications became clear. This wasn't just a weapon. It was the power to unmake worlds. "The delivery system is a small probe," Park continued, showing a holographic image of an unremarkable device no larger than a shuttlecraft. "It can be deployed via quantum displacement directly into a star's corona, where it would be virtually undetectable." "How many of these devices do we have?" asked Defense Minister Lee. "3 are completed. 5 more in final assembly." President Calvo closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her gaze was resolute. "This weapon will be used only as an absolute last resort, and only against uninhabited star systems. Is that understood?" Dr. Park nodded solemnly. "We pray we never have to use this," she told the council. "But we must be prepared to do what is necessary." As they spoke, Imperial forces regrouped for a massive counterattack. The Civil War had weakened them, but not broken them. Supreme Commander Relic had taken direct control of all military forces, bypassing the increasingly divided council. "If we cannot defeat these humans conventionally," he told his generals, "we will burn every one of their worlds to ash." Starting with Earth, the largest fleet in Imperial history gathered at the staging point of Deneb Prime. 5,000 warships, 2 million troops, planet-killer weapons that could crack Earth's crust. They did not know that 3 human destroyers had already infiltrated the system, carrying the terrible fire of Prometheus. The Imperial capital world of Sanctum glittered like a jewel against the darkness of space. Massive cities covered its surface, home to over 20 billion beings from across the Empire. Orbital rings encircled the planet, bristling with the most advanced defensive systems in known space. This was the heart of the Galactic Empire, the seat of power that had ruled 1/3 of the galaxy for 10,000 years. No enemy had ever reached Sanctum. No foreign vessel had ever breached its defenses. Until today. The Imperial High Council was in emergency session when the alarm sounded. Supreme Commander Relic burst into the chamber, his normally composed features twisted with disbelief. "Human ships," he announced. "Hundreds of them. They've appeared in high orbit around Sanctum." High Counselor Taven rose shakily from his seat. "Impossible. Our defense grid. They bypassed it completely," Relic interrupted. "Just as they did at Rigel. They're holding position, making no aggressive moves. They're waiting." "Waiting for what?" demanded Counselor Drax. The answer came moments later as every communication device on Sanctum, from the grandest military command center to the simplest personal communicator, activated simultaneously. The face of a human appeared on screens across the planet. "I am Chief Negotiator Sumho Universe," the human said calmly. "I speak for humanity in what we hope will be our final communication regarding this conflict." In the council chamber, the representatives watched in stunned silence. "Despite your unprovoked attacks on our colonies and homeworld," Hume continued, "we offer one final opportunity for peace. Our terms are simple: immediate cessation of all hostilities, recognition of Earth and its colonies as sovereign territory, and reparations for the 53 million human lives lost to your biological weapons." Rallick scoffed. "They surround one planet and think they can dictate terms to the Empire. They have no concept of our true power." Hume seemed to anticipate this reaction. "To ensure there is no misunderstanding about our resolve, Admiral Kang will now address you." The screen changed to show an older human in a military uniform. His eyes held no warmth, no mercy. "This is Admiral Minja Kang of the Human Defense Force," he began. "Before you dismiss our terms, I ask you to witness what began this war." The broadcast shifted to show footage from the scout ship Vigilant. The systematic destruction of the Proxima Centauri colony, the orbital bombardment, the deliberate targeting of civilian habitats, the methodical elimination of an entire population. "This is what your leaders did." Kang's voice resonated over the footage. "This is why we fight." The broadcast returned to Kang's face. "You believed us weak. You believed us primitive. You were wrong." On the retribution, Admiral Kang received the Empire's response to the human terms. As expected, they refused. Their counterproposal demanded humanity's immediate surrender and disarmament. "They still don't understand," Captain Bai observed. "Then we must make them understand," Kang replied. He opened a channel to Dr. Park's science vessel, which waited near the edge of the Sanctum system. "You may proceed with the demonstration." In separate parts of the galaxy, the human diplomatic courts had evacuated the civilian populations of the seceded species, the Navenians, Ardani, Tellarites, and others who had broken from the Empire. Millions of refugees had been transported to safe havens beyond Imperial reach. Now only the demonstration remained. Dr. Park's hands moved carefully over the control panel. "Prometheus probe deployed to target system," she reported. "Transit complete. Initiating sequence." The target was a small, uninhabited star system, 10 light-years from Sanctum. The star, a yellow dwarf similar to Earth's sun, had no planets with complex life, only barren rocks and gas giants. Quantum destabilization in 3, 2, 1. Initiated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the star seemed to pulse, its corona flaring outward in all directions. The surface bulged, writhed, and finally erupted in a cataclysmic explosion that outshone everything else in that region of space. The star went supernova. The light would take years to reach Sanctum naturally, but humanity transmitted the footage instantly to every world in the Empire. The message was clear. They possessed the power to destroy entire star systems with a single command. Admiral Kang opened a channel to Sanctum one final time. His message was brief. "This is Admiral Minja Kang of Earth. Your worlds will burn if you continue this war. You have 6 hours to surrender unconditionally." In the Imperial High Council chamber, the silence was absolute. They had just witnessed a power that none in the Empire possessed, the ability to destroy stars themselves. "They could have targeted our sun," Counselor Ilara said quietly. "They could have destroyed Sanctum without warning." "They're bluffing," Raylick insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. "No species would destroy an inhabited system. They lost 53 million of their own people to our weapons," Taven reminded him. "What makes you think they would hesitate to retaliate in kind?" The debate raged for less than 3 hours before the decision was made. For the first time in its 10,000-year history, the Galactic Empire surrendered. The terms were harsh but not vindictive. The Empire would withdraw from human space entirely. They would provide resources to rebuild the colonies they had destroyed. Most importantly, the military that had terrorized the galaxy would be disbanded, with each member species taking responsibility for their own defense. 1 week later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a lifeless world at the border of what had once been Imperial space. The Galactic Concord was signed, establishing the new order based on mutual respect rather than dominance and fear. Admiral Kang attended as Earth's military representative. After the ceremony, he found himself approached by a Nivenian diplomat. The question on many minds, the alien said carefully, is what role humanity will play in this new galactic order. You possess technology that could destroy us all. What guarantees do we have that humans won't simply replace the Empire as our overlords? Kang considered his answer carefully. Humanity never wanted conquest. We wanted to explore, to learn, to share knowledge. The Empire forced us to become warriors, and we proved more skilled at war than they anticipated. He looked out at the assembled representatives, dozens of species that had lived under Imperial rule for millennia. We will dismantle our star killers, he promised. We will share our quantum technology for peaceful purposes. But know this, any species that brings war to human worlds will face our full response. We sought peace. They chose war. Never forget what we're capable of if provoked again. Over the following decades, humanity kept its word. The terrible weapons developed during the war were dismantled. Earth helped rebuild worlds devastated by the Imperial Civil War. Human scientists worked alongside those of other species to advance medicine, agriculture, and sustainable energy. But in secure facilities on Earth and its colonies, the knowledge remained: how to build the weapons, how to deploy them, how to fight if necessary. And throughout the galaxy, the story spread of how humanity, when pushed to the brink of extinction, had brought the mighty Galactic Empire to its knees in less than 1 year. It was enough to ensure that no one dared threaten Earth again. The end.